Hey everyone, Hat here, and unfortunately we will not be able to have a full podcast today. We had a number of things that came up this weekend, and it just felt right to not have it this week, unfortunately. However, next week we are going to be talking about our early impressions with Xenoblade Chronicles on the Switch. Now that comes out on Friday. This is all hoping the game doesn't have any issues with us receiving the game. I'm prepared to probably just get the digital version if I can't get the physical version on Friday. But next week we will be giving our early impressions. It'll be non-spoiler. And then we'll have some other topics as well to cover next week. Again, really, really sorry that we're not going to have a podcast episode this week. I know a lot of you all look forward to it every week, but things came up and we just couldn't make it happen this week. But we will be back to our normal schedule next week to cover Xenoblade Chronicles and whatever else we have that comes up. So just to not leave you guys completely dry here, I figured I might just give a little bit of context to what I've been playing lately that might be interesting to some of you. So the prior weekend, I was diving back into Mass Effect 1 in particular. I saw the news surrounding that there may be a Mass Effect trilogy remaster coming to the Switch, or at least coming out. And so that got me interested to go back and play that series, at least play the first one, because I really just like the setting of that series and just maybe working myself through those games. You know, I tried to play it on PC because that was just the easiest way for me to play it, but I really was unhappy with the fact that I couldn't use a controller. I had to do all sorts of weird stuff to get the controller to work. So I ended up just playing it on the PlayStation 3. And, you know, I had a good time with it. It's just, that game has not aged very well. You know, I'm walking around maps and it has to stop and load. You know, I have frame drops that seem very surprising that I don't remember happening. So it's just weird how polished games have gotten, or at least it has seemed since that game came out. So I am looking forward to the remaster. I'm hoping that they kind of address some of those issues and, you know, we'll get a much more polished game. But this past weekend, I've been diving back into Final Fantasy XIV. I am not as complete as Eric is on Final Fantasy XIV. I've been working on A Realm Reborn for about 7 years. Not even joking. I got the game on the PlayStation 3, played it for a while, didn't play it again for another 3 or 4 years. Eric talked me into playing it on the, you know, I bought it again on the PlayStation 4 and started a new character in maybe 2016, 2017. And then I've been working on that, you know, whenever it suits me. So since I don't really have too much to play right now, with Xenoblade Chronicles coming out, I figured out I'll play some Final Fantasy XIV in my free time. So I've been doing that. I'm level 42, and I believe the max level for A Realm Reborn is 50. So I feel like I'm towards the end. I understand that everyone has told me that after you beat the main story quest, there's just a bunch of fetch quests, basically 100 quests that you have to do that basically padded out that game until they're able to come out with the next expansion. And so I don't know if I'm currently in that portion or not. I'm not going to spoil the game for anyone, but I've been doing a lot of questing, and a lot of it's just run over here, kill this, run over here, grab this, that type of thing. The dialogue's pretty good, but I just skip through most of it because I'm just trying to get through the rest of it. So I've just been doing that and listening to podcasts. That's been kind of my recharge time when I'm not doing everything else, but that's what I've been into this week. But once Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition comes out on Friday, I had to wince when I said Definitive Edition. We already covered why on the last podcast, but once Xenoblade Chronicles DE comes out on Friday, I'm going to pick that back up, and I'll be booting that thing up and trying to play as much as I can. I don't think we're going to have a full review or a full discussion on the game like we've had with the Final Fantasy VII Remake and all the other games we've discussed, mainly because we already had a 2-hour discussion about 2 years ago on Xenoblade Chronicles, me and Eric. So it seems a little redundant to do that again, especially for a game that's this length. But I am interested in playing through it and, seeing how far I can get. I don't know if I'll finish it this time. We'll have to see. But I definitely want to check out the epilogue where they're covering events after the main game. And then obviously I just want to play the game again. So just to see, some of the changes and just see, the new aesthetic. I understand they did a lot of work with the lip syncing, and we've covered a lot of the other changes on this podcast before. So I'm not going to be redundant in that manner, but I just want to get a feel for the remake and just kind of have an opinion on it. So I'll definitely put in a good chunk of time into that version. But I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I want to bring up here? I think that's it. I mean, it's been pretty light with announcements. I think the next RPG that I'm looking forward to that's coming out that we have a release date for is Cyberpunk, or release window, I should say. And I think that's it. I mean, there's other games that I know are supposed to come out this year, but we don't really have release dates for. Tales of Arise, when is that game coming out? I'm a little surprised that we don't. I understand there's a possible announcement coming for Shin Megami Tensei 5, which will be interesting to listen to or see, because that game had a trailer that came out, I think, 2 years ago, and we were covering it then, and then it's just been silence. There was a little news article message that Atlas basically said, no, the project's still in development, but they had to restart components of it. I think that they were taking people that were working on the game and having them focus on other projects, and it's just kind of gone on the back burner, but the progress was still happening. It's just happening slowly. But there's been some rumors that we're going to have some kind of announcement or some kind of showing possibly this year. So I'm interested in that. We're still waiting on Crosscode. Crosscode was supposed to come out last year on the Switch and other consoles. It's been out on PC for a few years now, and I own that version. I've been saying for a while now that I've wanted to play that game on the Switch because it felt that that would be a better version to play. And it was supposed to come out on Switch last year, but they ran into some porting issues, mainly because the way the game is coded is not compatible with the Switch or other consoles, mainly because it would introduce all sorts of security compromises that Nintendo and the other consoles were not going to allow. So they had to completely port it to a different engine and then port that to the Switch and other consoles. And once you do that, that slows everything down. So then they had to go back and start fixing things, just to maintain that frame rate. So that's supposed to come out now this year, but I still haven't heard any news on that. I know they're still updating the PC version, but that game is such a nice looking 2D Super Nintendo style game, but for modern audiences, and the gameplay was really, really slick on the PC. So I am looking for that version as well. So I guess at this point, we're just kind of waiting for more news. So I think that's basically it for this year. It's going to be Xenoblade Chronicles, Cyberpunk, and possibly those other announcements. I still want to try Persona 5 Royal just because I understand that is a better version of that game. But I just don't have a lot of time these days to commit to that type of game. And I really don't want to start it and then have to come back to it. And so maybe during a vacation, if there's not anything I'm playing, I might play it then and see how far I can get. But I tend to do a lot of the side content in games, even though I say I'm not that type of person. I kind of am. So I feel that this would definitely be a 100-hour playthrough, and it stresses me out that I might not get the best ending. So, it is what it is. But anyways, so that's kind of an update for me and where we're at. And like I said, next week we will have a regular podcast where we're going to cover all of our early impressions with Xenoblade Chronicles DE on the Switch, and then, any other news items or Discord questions that pop out or stand out to us. Again, appreciate you all supporting us and watching us and listening to us, and we will see you all next week. Thanks, guys.